What is music to make a change? This project believes music is the key to change the world. Music to Make a Change is a series of recitals that invites people to reflect on their lives and question their actions. With our music, we are inviting you to face the situation of the world as it is, so we can all make something about it. With music of living Black and Mexican composers, and with a glimpse of the life and opinion of all the people involved in this series, Music to Make a Change is gonna put a seed of change and a will to fight for all the change in all of us. There are two associations involved in this project, Castle of Our Skins and Racismo MX. They need all the help we can give. Now we can start by donating through PayPal. That way, they can keep fighting every day to make a change in the world. We need to be aware of our actions. We need to give love and be humble enough to accept the change. Because we all need the change. The world needs us to change. Then, what else do we need to do it? Let the music be the change the world needs. Hi, my name is Armando Ortiz Montenegro. Today in Música por un Cambio, we have an amazing program because my dear friend, an amazing violinist from Brooklyn, New York, Che Buford, is going to perform for us a piece by the great African-American composer, Brian Raphael Neighbors. And we are also gonna know a little bit more about Che, and we are also gonna know a little bit more about Brian. So stay here and enjoy, just relax, sit down, grab your popcorn, because we are about to begin this great Sunday of Música por un Cambio. And I'll leave you to Che Buford on his violin. Let's begin. So today in Música por un Cambio, we have here my dear friend and in occasion to occasion stand partner, Che Buford. Hello, Che. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
I am very happy. I'm very happy. Tell us, Che, for the people that are not acquainted to you and your work, your life, your work, and your um, you as a violinist. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I'm Che. I'm 20 years old. I'm a violinist and composer from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm currently in my junior year at Boston Conservatory in violin performance.
Sweet.
Yes.
So you said that you were a violinist and a composer. I'm gonna
Mhm.
go to two different directions in this question, but first, tell us what has been your experience being a performer, a violinist in the classical music scene.
Yeah. So I think for the most part, it's been like a very rewarding experience. Um, I have like been able to perform in many different places and I've been able to like work with a lot of different people. Um, yeah, so for the most part, it has been pretty rewarding. Although it's been pretty rewarding, I think some things that I have noticed is that like some of the negative things would probably be like I think there's usually like this stigma that African American players, aren't as good. And I've heard things like that, and especially recently where everyone is coming out with like a bunch of racist stories within like the community, and that seems like a statement that I have noticed before, like while being a performer.
So how does this affect you in your career, in your let's say in your practice as a student? Because you said you were in the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. I know you are, but for the audience
Mm,
that's
yeah.
hearing us, but how this affects you on your student level and on your professional as level as a performer?
Mhm. I do definitely feel like I have to prove myself more probably than probably what other people would have to experience. Like I do feel like there's like a pressure to like prove more. Just because like a lot of the times people don't expect um black players to actually play string instruments in a classical setting. So I think yeah, that's the main way it probably affects me.
And what about your career as a composer?
Hmm.
Um, how long have you been composing for, and what has been your experience being a composer?
Hmm. So I started composing in my junior year of high school. And also, I think it's a little different than performing because, of course, there's less, like, there's more subjectivity. So, um, there's like more room to like be creative, and the composer's world is like very diverse and a lot of different influences and styles. So, even though it is still rare as to have like composers of color. Um, I think it is like a little more, I think, better than as like a black violinist. So I think my experience um, like has been like a little more like welcoming and better as a composer.
And I remember that recently you were part of a premiere of your of one of your pieces on one institution that support the African American composers, that is Castle of Skins, that we
Yeah.
here have in the series also as well. Can you tell us your experience on that regard, on having the support of an institution backing your
Yeah.
music?
Hmm. Yeah, I was very happy and thankful for the challenge that they did that promoted 18 black composers, and I think these kinds of things are the kinds of things that should inspire other organizations to have as well, because especially during a time of like quarantine and stuff where um, everyone is suffering with like gigs and jobs, and I think yes, it was a very good experience to like write a short piece and have it premiered and get exposed by Castle Buskin.
How do you think your work as a composer and as a performer like can inspire other people to reach out outside um, both their comfort zone and also the space with with the society told them that they belong, how they can
Hmm.
go outside that space? uh, what do you think your work can, or how do you think you can inspire those people that are in that situation?
Yeah, I think when as a performer, um, I think um, I should invest like more time, and I have been to like playing more composers of color, so that and like kind of get rid of this idea that like recitals have to be just white composers. So I think just programming predominantly um, like composers of color is like one way that I could help inspire people as a performer. And I think as a composer, also like as a performer, I could promote my work through playing and putting it on recitals that I have. Because I think like part of it is just like we have to get rid of this idea that um, like dead white composers are the only composers that exist. And like we actually have to program not like just one, but like it's very necessary to put half or the whole recital is composed with color.
What do you think about this idea? I know you touched this already a little bit on that we usually always play these five or six white composers, usually Europeans. Usually they start with
Yeah.
B, Bach, Beethoven, Brahms. You know, and what do you because I know that the institutions are still, some of them, not all of them, are still wanting to keep this kind of programming because they say that it helps for the students to be trained to have jobs in the future.
Mhm.
Like as a training experience, they need to learn this kind of music for auditioning for an orchestra. Do
Mhm.
you think that including how do you think we can include music that is not part of that white tradition in this kind of situation where institutions are defending their posture by saying that, okay, you need to learn this because this is the music that the orchestras are playing. You don't need to
Yeah.
learn the other stuff, or at least you
Yeah.
don't need to learn it right now. What do you think about that?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I still think it starts by like in the schools. Like I think like this kind of problem will like change if people in schools um like start changing the culture around like what we program and stuff. So I think it definitely has to start um by schools saying we're going to be playing this kind of music, and even talking to people who have connections with orchestras and stuff. Um, like we have to find those connections and convince them that um, there are many other composers outside of the canon that do deserve recognition. Yes, so I think like just I think the whole like for this problem to solve, like the whole culture has to change, and we kind of have to just like dismantle everything that we know. Yeah,
That's a very strong thing to do, like dismantle everything we
yeah,
know already. um
yeah. It's
and
just like the culture.
yeah.
It's like yeah, hmm
And
yeah,
how do you think we can manage to do that? This, like, because if we deconstruct all of the things that we know already,
hmm
how can we merge a new, uh, a new thing? Like, what elements do you think we can take from the culture that we have, and what elements do you think we could add to that new um,
hmm
environment? Let's say.
yeah, yeah. I think it's still important. It's like no, like the standard repertoire, um, and stuff. But I think it's also again like I think it has to do with um like we have to do a much better job with educating like the young people in college about um, many black composers who existed and other people of color, women composers who existed in music history. So like this means like probably revising the textbook, um, teaching, doing a better job teaching more um, than just one or two black composers in music history. Then I think after educating on that level, it'll inspire people, to look into these composers more, and then possibly start programming these composers much more than they already have.
We need to do some research, of course,
Yeah.
regarding these aspects. What has been your experience doing your own research on your composers? Let's say, because
hmm
the composers of this series, you perform one African American composer, and you are performing as well one Mexican composer.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit on how has been this research process for you,
Yeah.
regarding the music of this series.
Hmm. Well, for the to find the black composer Brian Nappers, it wasn't um too challenging because I did since I was in the Castle of Our Skins 18 composer miniature challenge. I just out of curiosity, I wanted to see which of those composers would have a solo violin piece. But for the Mexican composer, it was challenging. Like it was actually very challenging to find um, like a Mexican composer who wrote a solo violin piece.
It definitely has been for every instrument that has been performing, to
Yeah,
find. It's interesting how for people here in Mexico it has been hard to find people, black composers in the US, and of course it's because we live in the country now and we know a little bit more of the scene.
yeah,
But I think it also revolves around the part that there's no much promotion to new music, you know, like
that's true. Yeah.
also new music, um, lacks a little bit of acceptance in the mainstream scene.
I think people just need to be more open-minded. I think a lot of people just have this idea that new music is like crazy and like so like very different from like canon music, which it can be, but that's not a bad thing. And I think people just need to um, be more open-minded with how they approach a bunch of things. So I think people actually need to do the work and research, um, like a lot, like go to small concerts that feature new music, um, and talk to your composer friends and see if you could perform their music. Like I think it's again, like I think the culture with classical music is something that we really have to change because a lot of these ideas from the culture that we have is that the canon music is the highest and best kind of music and that can't be changed and we have to just continue on this thing for forever. But the fact of the matter is that like there are composers who are writing music who could be do like who could like if we promote their work and like program their music, they could have much more success than a lot of people have now. So I think it's like people just need to be more open minded and like step out of what they're used to. Yeah.
Being more open-minded and step out what they are used to. That's basically, I think that you nailed it on that sentence,
Mm,
uh,
yeah.
because it, it can apply to music, but also it definitely applies, absolutely applies to the social aspect that we are living both in the US, in Mexico, on this
Yeah.
racial problem that we are facing.
Hmm.
uh, so I think if people wants to have something to take back, that should be it, that should be it. Be more
Yeah.
open-minded and step out of what you already know, because maybe what you know is not the right thing. Who knows? Or maybe it is, but you
Exactly.
need to do some research. As you said it, Che, you need to do some
Yeah.
research.
I think yeah, I think programs and organizations like Castle of Our Skins thinks this recital series, like I think they need to happen much more in the classical music world, and I think and I think it starts with people who are young like us to bring it to the attention of like the people in our school, our teachers, the administrators that this is important and um, composers of color, women, composers who are women exist and deserve to not be erased and like deserve to like have their music played.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you very much. It was a pleasure to have you here
yeah,
today,
yeah. Thank
and thank you for being part of this recital series and for your uh, small bits of wisdom that you share with us. It was
you.
very nice. It was very nice to have you.
Yeah,
Thank you again, and
yeah,
well, I hope we see you soon.
yes, yeah, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Okay,
See ya.
yeah, bye.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Wonderful.
Well, I'm very happy that you are here with us today. But tell us, Brian, for the people that probably they don't know too much about you, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about your career?
Sure, I'll try not to tell my whole life story, but
Please do, yeah, please do.
well, basically, I'm a composer and a pianist, and I was born southeastern United States in Birmingham, Alabama. It's a very historic city, home of the civil rights movement back in the 60s, and uh, long after that became a nice southern charming town. And so I grew up as a 90s kid loving music. My mother is an organist in church and also a pianist, and I grew up in the heavy gospel tradition as well as jazz and R&B, and just loving really hardcore American music, as well as a lot of rap as well. Um, and so my father is a pastor and a visual artist and a painter, and so I grew up kind of surrounded by music. My mother would take me to all these different events, whether it be just other church music events or R&B concerts or anything, Broadway shows, Disney on Ice, just anything that she could get her hands around to kind of open up my cultural world, if you will. And so since she's a keyboardist, naturally, when I was 5, I started bamming on the keyboard, and I learned by ear. And I just listened to everything I possibly could and just try to pitch match it. And I did this until about middle school. Then I finally got formal training on piano. And so by then my ear had gotten so accustomed to picking up things that, you know, the other things that would be normally harder for somebody who had started at that age formally, I was able to take a liking to rather quickly. And by undergrad, you know, I decided I wanted to be a composer. It was something that was coming out of me. I thought I was going to be an architect, but then I had to be in a mood to, you know, calculate functions and build light fixtures and draw, because I'm also an artist like my father. But something about music wouldn't let me go, because I did that more than anything else. And I was like, okay, I'm a composer. And I gave up, went straight into it, undergrad, and have been going ever since. Went through undergrad, grad school. 3 degrees later, here I am trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life now. And it's been a wonderful ride. I've had some really wonderful opportunities coming out of school just last year with my DMA. And so just wonderful orchestras. I've gained some really cool commissions and been able to work with some wonderful people, and it keeps going up from there. So I try to remain a humble steward and accept what I can and try not to do too much. Try to get some balance in my life, but the main goal is to always keep reinventing myself so that I can produce the best musical experiences and be a real beacon for what it means to be a composer in the 21st century. So that's basically kind of a snapshot, if you will.
You talk about being a composer in the 21st century. How that how that has been for you?
It's been very interesting. I love artists like Nina Simone, and she said so beautifully when she was still alive that it's our duty to be kind of an artist that reflects the times. And I have tried to jump face forward with that for as long as I've been doing this. And there have been so many things that have happened with the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and just a lot of the undoing, our beginnings of undoing a lot of the systemic racism that's been going on in this country for so many years. And of course, with a lot of that being the background of where I'm from in Alabama, and just, you know, in my own country, period, I'm very much a part of that history. And I feel this in every work that I write, and I try to address it in some form, not to make every piece about trying to struggle and get through, but to really create music that speaks to our generation and also provides a bit of healing and some fun every now and then, and just really gets to the heart of what music is about, bringing people together no matter what you look like. It's a very human art form. It's a very human spirit to spirit sort of deal, where it doesn't matter where you come from. It's just like these wonderful experiments. If you bring a group of children from all over the world together, you sit them in a room and you give them a bunch of drums to play on, it's amazing what happens. They just all start hitting things, and the whole room erupts in just fun and laughter, even if you can't understand each other. It's amazing how music connects. And so at the very micro level of working with children, imagine adults who should know better, who have all the tools to fix things. Imagine what music and the arts can do for them. So I treat it as a duty of mine to help heal the world along with my colleagues, and to provide support as well as seek it out. Yeah.
You said something beautiful about the music should connect, should have this ability to connect. Uh, how have you felt have you felt this connection in your career with the performers, or with the pieces that you perform, and the music that you write? How have you felt that connection? Can you?
That's a very interesting question. Definitely. It first started mainly before I had people to perform my music, sitting downstairs, of my parents' house, in my compositional dungeon, if you will, thinking about all the experiences I've had over my life that have touched my heart in some way. I grew up pretty much a child of nature. My father and I, we loved to go fishing. I remember all these, I'm sure you have them too, of all these memories of just growing up and just being outside, being somewhere, or just a moment where you could let go and think and imagine of what life could be, or, all sorts of different ideas that come across your brain. And I try to reflect ideas of nature and spirituality in my music, and that helps me to connect to other people who also feel that deep connection to their roots and their home, and where they come from. And then more recently, as I've gained friends and colleagues, I try to tap into the beauty of their spirit and their personality and what they love, especially when I'm given the opportunity to actually compose something new for one of my friends. It's just like, oh, I got the perfect thing for you. You get to really craft not only your audience's musical experiences, but the experience of your performance. And that's something that's extremely important to me. I want to make sure that I understand the ins and outs of not only their instrument, but their playing, and what they like, and what they would find challenging, and what they would love to be challenged on, and everything like that, to make the experience of anyone who plays my music a real journey. And so I try to do this with everything I do, and that's where the different points of connection kind of come for me.
Wow. And I think this is a perfect moment for me to ask you, how the theme of variations of solo violin came to be? I think this is like, just tell us a little bit.
I wrote it for my dear friend Zinnia St. Charles Gilbert at the time, who was finishing up high school and now starting degrees in composition and, I believe, violin performance at the University of Michigan. So this piece is very fun. I just wanted kind of a simple piece that wasn't too complicated, but provided enough, fun challenge to really just make a nice little showpiece. Of course, now that I'm a little bit older, not that much older, I can make, music that's tremendously harder if I wanted to, but sometimes, it's just not necessary. And I just wanted a really cool set of theme and variations. One thing I love about writing for just a theme and variations is the level of creativity that you can have with a theme that can be just two fragments or a whole line or just anything, and then you can come up with just the most ridiculous variations that come out of the sky. And so in this piece, it's really fun. There's a variation where you knock on the back of the violin while simultaneously trying to go between pizzicato, and then there's some harmonic trills. There are just a few little fun things going around. I've enjoyed composing this piece, and so my goal is to compose a theme and variations for at least every instrument I can, and make like a giant collection of them. And that might be really, really fun. But I love writing for strings, especially. Most of my friends are string players. I don't know why. It's just I have this connection. It's just that group of instruments is just some of the most expressive instruments, period. It's just the ability to add vibrato and change your tone and everything, and slide between notes very closely. It's just really awesome. I really, really want to learn cello. We'll see how that goes. I can't afford one, but hopefully I'll be able to join you guys pretty soon.
I think it would be nice, a nice addition, a nice cello addition for the community. And I mean, this talk has taught us so much already. I mean, you have you have told us about opening to a new cultural worlds when you were younger, and now in your music, being an artist, it needs to reflect our times, how music should connect people, and you as a composer, you go beyond making music. You try to understand the performer, understand the instrument, understand what you want to say with your music. And what do you think on all of these things that you already have taught us? Tell us a little bit on what do you think should change on the music scene right now. Like, I know there's plenty of things. I know that we can have a 2-hour conversation of all the things that need to change, but maybe not 2 hours, maybe a small version of those 2 hours. What do you think needs to change?
I shall do my best with this question so much. It's not so bad, but there are a lot of things we must address. I would say mainly the availability of opportunity for people to see, hear, and experience this music. And then also the availability and opportunities for potential composers and artists to see and hear the benefits of this music. So it's going to take a village to also break, thirdly, all the stigmas that have come as a result of a system of music that started in European aristocracy, and now has come to be in all of our hands. And what I am so excited about in the future is our ability to bring all of our various cultures to what I like to call concert music. I think a lot of my friends were thinking about changing this idea of classical music to something more like contemporary concert music, or just concert music in general. The idea of going on a stage and really allowing different cultural references to come in. Not to self-promote, but I am writing a concerto for orchestra right now. And one of the things I'm doing, as well as other different, classical forms like the sonata and other things like that, are really dissecting not only kind of the formal constructs of what they're made up of, but also interjecting for, our time going forward, social constructs into those forms, and really redefining what these things mean so that classical music can stay relevant in the future if anybody wants to write in various styles. Not that you have to kind of bolt yourself down with what came before, but to really redefine and reimagine new ways of telling our stories, to create platforms for people who look like me and you and so many others who have been underrepresented for such a long time. It's just about creating opportunities and spaces for us to be able to say what we have to say what we need to say, in a very kind of unrelenting, free way, with no restrictions, in the way that these composers have said for hundreds of years. Yeah.
That I hope that world come sooner than later. I
too.
definitely, it needs to arrive. I think it's like, but I know that many people are thinking the same way as are, as you were thinking, and um, so in this thing that you address, um, how do you think we will be able to reach that point?
Ah,
Um, I
hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
yeah, for example, as if
Hmm.
we can define as the educational system in music, speaking
Yes.
music, and the performers and the composers and the listeners, like how all of these branches of what classical music or music in general is,
Hmm.
uh, can work to reach that ideal state of music.
Hmm. As you said, definitely education is a huge thing. I'm definitely the product of good music education. That's where the exposure to all of these artists and different sounds and different ways of being come to be. You know, what you could be is always determined by your influence. Uh, and I always thank my parents, because not everyone has, you know, a set of circumstances at home that I've always had a father that anytime I doubted myself, he was like, "Why not you? You can do anything you want. You're my son." And that combined with a good educational system uh, creates so many opportunities to be self-motivated. But it goes beyond that because, like I said, not everyone is as fortunate. So it's about really starting these children off at a very young age so that they can have real opportunities to really develop a relationship and a love for creating and a freedom for creating as well. Other than that, definitely representation in our art form, all the way down from the conductors to the artistic administrators to everyone who not only works in orchestral institutions, but down through heads of chamber ensembles. We need to just be thinking of starting different initiatives that will be relevant for today. And it's really easy to do now more than ever because of, you know, our ability to utilize technology. There are so many ways, probably so many that I can't even think of as I talk to you. I'm probably going to think of more
Mm.
after we finish here, but yeah, for sure. It's about utilizing all that's available to us today, representation and education for sure.
I'm speechless. I'm definitely speechless of these things that you said, because you, as I said a few minutes ago, you taught us so much on this
Appreciate it.
conversation, and I hope people definitely listen, because um, you have some very important things to say with your music, with your career, and the way you think, and people need to open their ears and open their souls and open their minds uh, for this perspective of unity and this perspective of understanding and of opportunities. And I don't know, I'm very thankful for you to be here. I don't know, you wanna say something else before we close the interview?
Yeah, keep hope alive and don't stop believing in the power of music. It's everything we have. It has the power to literally change everything through us. It has the power to deliver us from anything.
Well, as I said in the beginning, what an amazing day. What an amazing day. The performance of the piece, it was mind blowing. Che is just an amazing performer. And the piece by Brian Raphael Neighbors is just mind blowing as well. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoyed talking a little bit with Che and talking a little bit with Brian. Let me tell you what's gonna happen tomorrow, because tomorrow we are having again Che. Che wants to come back again, now performing a piece not for solo violin, but for solo violin and electronics. The piece is gonna speak by itself, and this piece is made by the Mexican composer Francisco Cortés. So tomorrow we're gonna hear the piece. We're gonna know a little bit more about Francisco and his work. So stay here, stay tuned. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, around the same time. Like middle of the day, and see you tomorrow in Música por un Cambio. Remember to follow us on our social media. And remember to make your donations to Cast Love for Skins and Racismo MX. These two associations that are fighting day by day to make the world a better place. So, thank you very much. If you enjoy the background music, don't forget to check out my dear friend Matthias Vecanski, this amazing composer that made the background music for this recital series. My name is Armando Ortiz Montenegro. Let the music be the change the world needs. See you soon.